Thank you, Governor Jan Brewer. Hello, Arizona. Thank you. I'm just so grateful to be introduced by my friend, your former governor, to call your current governor, Doug Ducey, a friend, and to share the stage with Sheriff Joe Arpaio, one of the great law enforcement officers in the United States of America. I'm Mike Pence. Just about 2 short weeks ago, my wife and I were humbled and honored to accept the Republican nomination to run and serve as the next Vice President of the United States of America. And I got to tell you, I joined this campaign in a heartbeat because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down. He's a fighter. He's a winner. And until very recently, it seemed like he was out there doing it all by himself. But now we are united as a movement and a people, and we're going to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States of America. You know, I'm so impressed you all are here. I didn't even know it rained in Arizona. Give yourselves a round of applause for fording the rivers and coming here tonight. I'm so impressed with all of you. You know, I'm honored to stand with Donald Trump because, as we say south of Highway 40, Donald Trump gets it. He's a genuine article. He's a doer in a game usually reserved for talkers. When Donald Trump does his talking also, you know, he doesn't tiptoe around those thousands of rules of political correctness that the media lays in the path of men and women who are out there standing for America. He's his own man. He's distinctly American. And he drives a lot of people in Europe just crazy. I mean, if you think about it, where else would an independent spirit, plain talking leader like Donald Trump find a following than in the land of the free and in the home of the brave? You know, the funny thing is, the party in power seems helpless to figure out our nominee. And of course, I'm referring to the media. I mean, seriously, the Democrats and the mainstream media all keep telling each other, you know, that they got him this time. They think the usual methods are going to work against him. They keep thinking they finally done him in. This time it's over. And then the next morning they turn on their televisions and Donald Trump is still standing stronger than ever before and fighting for the American people. You know, it really is amazing if you think about it. At the very moment when America is crying out for something new and different, the other party has answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. People in both parties are restless for change, restless to break free from the status quo patterns in Washington, D.C. And Democrats just got done anointing someone who represents everything this country is tired of. So I would say, for the sake of our security, for the sake of our prosperity, let's decide here and now in Arizona that Hillary Clinton will never become President of the United States of America. You know, the failed policies of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have weakened America's place in the world and stifled our nation's economy. They really have. 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's policies have weakened America's place in the world. You know, I served 10 years in Washington, D.C. on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I traveled in and out of some of the most troubled regions of the world visiting our soldiers. I always had the view that if you voted to send somebody into combat, you ought to go down range and stand with them and make sure they know they have your prayers and your support. But now look around the world today. Terrorist attacks at home and abroad, a Middle East with countries seemingly falling apart from Libya to Syria, the upending of leadership in other countries across the region. It's extraordinary to think about. Heartbreaking scenes of terrorist attacks. A Catholic priest laid to rest today, murdered in the pews of his own church. For all the world, it feels at times as we turn on the news like the world is spinning apart. You know, history teaches that weakness arouses evil. And I believe that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, and the rise, rule, and reign of ISIS are a testament to this truth of history. You know, President Barack Obama gave a speech today talking about my running mate a little bit. He actually said that the Republican nominee is unfit to serve. He did. And he said the fact that he doesn't appear to have basic knowledge about critical issues in Europe, Middle East, and Asia means that he's, quote, woefully unprepared to do this job. Well, let me say, I think Barack Obama knows something about being woefully unprepared to be president of the United States. But the part that bothered me was he went on to say, he said that our nominee lacks the judgment, the temperament, and the understanding to occupy the most powerful position in the world. So why don't we take a look at the record? Why don't we take a look at the record of judgment by this administration and their Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton? I mean, it was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton whose staggering failure in Iraq turned a stable Iraq in 2008, fought hard with the precious lives of American soldiers, handed to this administration intact, and a hasty withdrawal of American troops without a status of forces agreement created a vacuum of power which conjured up ISIS itself. That's the record. It was Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who instigated the disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. And it was just today that the Ayatollah al-Khamenei actually distanced himself from that so-called historic nuclear pact. He actually said that to do a deal with the United States was deadly poison. And if you haven't heard about it yet, tonight, the Wall Street Journal is actually reporting that on the day, and it's around the time the deal was done and American hostages were being released, the administration airlifted $400 million in cash to Iran. You know, we cannot have 4 more years accommodating and apologizing to our enemies or abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe, and Donald Trump will lead on the world stage from strength. Donald Trump knows the path to peace is through strength, by rebuilding our military, having a broad-shouldered American policy, standing with our allies, and confronting radical Islamic terrorism and destroying ISIS at its source is a pathway toward peace and stability and the security of the American people. And at home, the record is just as challenging. You know, Hillary Clinton essentially offers a third Obama term, if you think about it. If you think about it, she championed Obamacare before it even started. It was decades earlier that she all but invented Obamacare. Under this administration, the debt has nearly doubled. And if you watched her speech the other night, and I watched most of it, okay, I will admit I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband. But if you listen carefully, you could have titled the speech, "Nothing New." More of the same. More of the same borrowing and spending and bailouts and takeovers and more government regulation, and it's just not what we need. 2 terms of the policies of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are enough. You know, Donald Trump understands the frustrations and hopes of the American people like no leader in my lifetime since our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. Donald Trump understands the American people are tired of being told. We're tired of being told that this is as good as it gets. We're tired of hearing from politicians in both political parties who tell us that we'll get to it tomorrow while they pile a mountain range of debt on our children and our grandchildren. And as Ronald Reagan used to say so well, we're tired of being told that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them for ourselves. Donald Trump gets it. You know, essentially what you heard last week at the Democratic National Convention is they said this economy is the best we can do. But Donald Trump and I know better. It's nowhere near the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we're going to unleash the boundless energy of the American economy and put the American people back to work. And I know what I'm talking about. I come from the state of Indiana. You know, we call Indiana a state that works, because it all still works. Every time you put common sense, conservative principles into practice, it all still works. About 10 years ago, the state of Indiana found ourselves in what a lot of people still call the middle, kind of the buckle of the Rust Belt. We kind of had our economy was struggling. Our schools had gone unreformed for a generation. We were awash in a sea of debt with high taxes that had gone unreformed for as long as anybody could remember. And then we started electing common sense conservative leadership, just like you got here in Arizona. We put our fiscal house in order. Since I've been governor, we balanced not one but 2 budgets. We passed the largest single increase in education funding in the history of the state of Indiana. $2.5 billion in infrastructure to stay the crossroads of America. We've expanded access to health care for underprivileged Hoosiers. And we've cut taxes every year that I've been governor, $3.5 billion in tax relief. And now I'm proud to say back in the Hoosier state, we have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of the state. And that's exactly the kind of no-nonsense leadership that Donald Trump is going to bring to the White House with the same results. You know, for years we've had fundamental problems in America that just get talked to death in Washington, D.C. It's like those people get paid by the word. Things don't ever seem to get solved, and a lot of times they just get worse, don't they? We've seen entire stretches of our country written off by bad economic policies. We've seen relentless mandates from an executive branch. You know, it seems like there's no aspect of our lives too small for this present administration to supervise, and no provision of the Constitution too large for them to ignore. Meanwhile, we've seen our borders go unrespected, our military's been diminished, and promise after ringing promise to our veterans has been forgotten. And then Donald Trump came along. And he started saying exactly what practically everybody was thinking anyway, right? Our leaders need to be stronger. Our leaders need to be smarter. Under Donald Trump, our deals will be better. And under Donald Trump, we will make sure that our soldiers and the American people have the freedom and the resources to get the job done and prosper and be secure. You know, the choice in this election really couldn't be more clear. The American people can elect someone who literally personifies the failed status quo in our nation's capital, or we can choose a leader. We can choose a leader who will fight every day to make America great again. It's change versus the status quo. And my friends here in Arizona, let me make a promise to you. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, the change will be huge. It's because the secret with Donald Trump, if you get around him, is very simple. I mean, he's built a global business enterprise, but he's never forgotten the men and women in this country who work with their hands, who grow the food, who build our roads and our bridges and our buildings, who tend to our sick, who teach our kids. There's something about him to be around him, and my family and I have had that privilege over the last month. But you know, he's constantly asking people questions. And I'm not talking about the pollsters and the pundits, but he's always stopping and he's talking to taxi cab drivers and elevator operators. I think it comes from the kind of business that he's run. When the man builds a building, his kids told me, Eric told me one time that, you know, he usually goes to the loading dock first before he goes to the lobby, because he wants to make sure things are happening right, and he knows who's getting the things done that need to get done. He has that connection to the American people that's truly unique and rare. And he's someone that knows the boundless potential of our people, and he'll never turn his back on us everyday Americans. And particularly, he's got a heart for the men and women who wear the uniform of law enforcement in this country. He does. I see him do it. I see him stop on his way in. We'll be running late to something, but he's going to stop. He's going to shake hand of every police officer, everyone in the back hallways, the guy guarding the door, who's guarding the door, whatever. It's remarkable. In this challenging time for men and women in law enforcement, a heartbreaking time, we've seen headlines of law enforcement officers who left their families in a morning and went home to be with the Lord that night. Could we just take a moment to show our appreciation to all the law enforcement officers who are here and show them how much we appreciate who they are, the sacrifices they make. Thank you. You know, thank you. You know, I can promise you, as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, President Donald Trump will support our law enforcement community at every level, provide the resources for them to protect our families and go home safe to theirs. We will restore law and order to the streets of our cities and towns all across America when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. And lastly, I want to get to your questions in this town hall that we have, since you swam to get here. I'm going to get to them in just a second, but let me share with you one more thing that's about this election, because I really want you to leave here tonight, and I want you to have a burden on your heart to go share what you may have heard from this podium from me and others with your neighbors and your friends. You've got about 98 days to get this job done, men and women. It's going to take all of us to do it. But as this election approaches, remember this. We're going to be filling the presidency for the next 4 years, but this election will likely define the direction of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40. Okay? We've got to think pretty carefully about that. Got to think carefully about what that means to our Constitution, to limited government. So let me say this from my heart. For the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment to the Constitution, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, we must ensure that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States is President Donald Trump. You know, there seem to be so many things that divide us. So few great purposes that unite us as they once did. It seems like we've had leadership in this country that, intentionally or unintentionally, has resulted in an America that's focused on more of what we don't have in common than what we do. But you know, I was raised really with a front row seat to the American dream. My grandfather came here from Ireland when he was about 24 years old, my son's age now. He got on a boat, came across the Atlantic. He drove a bus in Chicago, Illinois for 40 years. He's the proudest man I ever knew. I was named after him. My mom married this fast-talking salesman who took her down to a small town in southern Indiana, and they built everything that matters. They built a family and a business and a good name. I watched all of their kids be able to go off with their parents' support and a lot of hard work to go off and get a college education. I was always raised to believe that there was more that united us than ever divided us. And I still believe that. That in this country, that the ideals that are enshrined in those founding documents of the Declaration and our Constitution, our belief in freedom, our belief in the boundless potential of every individual to live out their dreams. What I always tell little fourth graders when I visit classes back in Indiana is I wave them in real close and I tell them, let me tell you the secret about America. They get real quiet. And I tell them, anybody can be anybody in America. And that's what unites us. And what's also united us since before the founding of this country, that so many generations of Americans have believed, and to this day know that we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, it was Alexis de Tocqueville, a Frenchman who came and visited America shortly after the American Revolution, who wrote words that reflect on that core strength of our nation. And I'll read them to you, if I might. He wrote, I sought for the key to the greatness and genius of America in her harbors, in her fertile fields, in her boundless forests, in her rich mines, her vast world commerce. In her public school system, her institutions of learning. I sought for it in her democratic Congress, in her matchless Constitution. But then he wrote, not until I went into the churches of America and I heard her pulpits flame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. So let me say, if those words resonate with you, and if you occasionally, as our little family does, bend the knee, now's a good time to do it. Pray for all the people of this country. Pray for the future of this country. Because I still believe what's been true for thousands of years, that if His people who are called by His name will humble themselves and pray, He'll hear from heaven and He will heal our land. So, my friends in Arizona, we've got a choice to make. This is another time for choosing. Maybe the most consequential choice we will ever make as a nation. So let me lay it out for you one more time. And then I'm going to hear from you. If you want a president who will protect this nation, confront radical Islamic terrorism, and rid the world of ISIS, if you want a president who will restore law and order to this country and give law enforcement the support and resources they need and deserve, if you want a president who will cut taxes, grow our economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare, if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., turn it on its ear, and appoint judges to the Supreme Court who will uphold our Constitution, then we have but one choice. And I'm here to tell you, that man is ready. Our team is ready. This country is ready to elect Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States. And when we do, we will make America great again. Try that. There we go. I'm glad I got that off my chest. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, really, in the midst of inclement weather. I really am proud of all of you. And I'm particularly honored. I like those Make America Great Again hats, but the hats I like the most are the ones that bear the insignia of the Armed Forces of the United States. Would our veterans please stand up? The men and women who have served in the uniform of the United States, and allow us to say thank you. Thank you for your service. Perfect. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, men and women. Thank you. And we got some folks with some microphones out there. Anything you want to know, we'll go boy, girl, how about? Let's start with this girl in the front row. She started a couple rounds of applause. I owe her one. Hi. What's your name?
Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. Is that on? Oh, okay. I do have a question now. I heard, and I don't understand the entire context of it, that most of the jobs that have been created in the last several years here in America were not given to Americans. How will Mr. Trump and you change that?
Well, what I can tell you is whatever the statistic is there, we have real challenges in the economy in this country. I mean, the morning after Hillary Clinton gave her address, the rosy presentation of America, official Washington, D.C. announced that we have the slowest economic recovery since 1949. That's 10 years before I was born. 1.2%. And the American people know it. I mean, real incomes in this country have not risen for more than a decade, and people are struggling, and they know that. What I can tell you about Donald Trump is that the first thing he's going to do, you all in Arizona know more about this than most, he's going to build a wall. He's going to secure our borders, and he's going to enforce the laws of this country. Okay? But the second thing we're going to do, and he's got a big speech coming next week, Rebecca, be ready for it. I'm going to lay out an economic plan that's going to, not like Hillary Clinton's plan. Hillary Clinton's plan that she just described in her speech was more the same, stimulus spending and green jobs and all the failed policies of this administration. What you're going to hear Donald Trump describe next week is our policies that are based on lower taxes, cutting regulation, repealing Obamacare, and having trade deals that work for working Americans. Okay? So be ready. It's coming. It's coming. And we've got to, other than the security of the people of this country, the prosperity of this country is on the ballot. So thanks. Great question. Okay. Next up. Okay. Go ahead. What's your name?
Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
Same along lines with the economy, but looking at there's tons of homeless individuals as well as homeless vets. and looking how, the philosophy of the party has been, pull yourself up from the bootstraps.
Sure.
But with the last 8 years being so without boots even. So how are those folks going to be able to make themselves prosperous or helping them be out of the homeless situation?
Well, it is number one, it's a wonderful question. Thank you for your heart. I'm very proud of efforts that we've done in the state of Indiana, if I may brag on the Hoosier State for a minute. We've made incredible progress for our veterans. We established goals for state contracting with veteran-owned businesses. We more than doubled the budget for the Veterans Affairs Administration in Indiana. And the statistics just came out. My home state of Indiana has the second lowest unemployment rate for veterans in the United States of America. Okay? There's ways you do it. There's ways that you do it. One of them is licensing. I mean, recognizing we have veterans, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, who've come home, who are certified in a broad range of technical areas. But one of the things we've been doing in Indiana, we need to do more of in this country, is make sure that when you get certified in the military to operate a truck or to work certain equipment, that when you come home, that certification applies to the private sector in this country. Okay? And that's worked in Indiana. It's worked in Indiana. But the other thing, too, the last thing, too, is when you talk about persistent homelessness, I mean, part of the challenge is just making sure that people have access to care. And in the state of Indiana, we're home now of the most innovative Medicaid program in the United States. Once we repeal Obamacare, and we're going to repeal Obamacare, lock, stock, and barrel. One of the things that's been proposed for years on Capitol Hill, and Donald Trump and I have talked about it, is block granting Medicaid back to the states and allow states like Arizona to do what, frankly, Indiana's done a good portion of right now, and that is redesign Medicaid so that it works for men and women at the point of the need. I mean, we have a program, you can look it up, called the Healthy Indiana Plan, that's literally enrolled people who now are making a monthly payment into a health savings account. First time in the history of Medicaid that's happened on that scale. People are taking greater ownership of their own health care. They're going to see their own doctor instead of waiting to see the emergency room. And I have to believe in my heart of hearts that access to primary care and better health leads to better economic futures for people as well. So for our veterans, we can do more, but I truly do believe that we can improve these programs by sending them back down to the states and allowing people to be flexible and building it all on personal responsibility. Yes, right here.
Hi, my name is Mary Kay Nelson.
Hi, Mary
I'm
Kay.
a retired social service worker that speaks Spanish and English, and I worked 37 years in Arizona with the Hispanic people.
Great.
And I was wondering if you had any plan to try to get that vote.
Well, we do. I have to tell you, I think Latino and Hispanic Americans care as much about safety and security as every American, right? And they care as much about jobs and opportunities and quality schools as every American. And let's carry that message. Let's carry that message boldly into that community. And let's carry it with a celebration of the cultural diversity of this country. My grandfather was an immigrant, right? He went through Ellis Island. I mean, other than the Native Americans among us who we cherish, our fellow Americans, all of us are descendants from people that came from somewhere else. And so let's celebrate the diversity of this country and make people hear our hearts as much as they hear our minds for security and prosperity. Hi. Yes, sir.
Governor, one of the things that I guess I'm the most concerned about in America today is our educational system. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, as a young man, as a boy, I had history classes, civics, and it was more than a one paragraph on Abraham Lincoln. Today, it seems, the institutions of learning are not really institutions of learning that much anymore, but more of it institutions of indoctrination and political correctness. So what can you and Mr. Trump do to help in that situation for us?
That's great. And did I get your name?
Steve Bennett.
Steve, thanks. And thanks for your service, Steve, very much. Navy guy. Look, there's nothing that ails education. And let me tell you, where'd my wife go? Is she handy? Is she slim? Karen Pence, school teacher, 25 years in the classroom. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I always tell people there's two things about education that I know, and I know Donald Trump believes this passionately, Steve. Number one, education is a state and local function that should be controlled by parents and teachers and administrators here in Phoenix and in Arizona and not in Washington, D.C. Period. It's not a new thought for me. So I get elected to Congress in the year 2000. My first year, I'm all excited, fired up. There's a Republican president. First bill he sends us is called No Child Left Behind. It's the largest increase in the federal Department of Education since Jimmy Carter invented it. Okay? And I was one of 50 members of the Republican Party that opposed No Child Left Behind. And thankfully, Congress just repealed it. Okay? I mean, Washington... my attitude about schools is Washington, if you want to send resources, fine, but not red tape. All right, we got this. The second thing, and I'll tell you something Donald Trump is incredibly passionate about, is that parents ought to be able to choose where their children go to school regardless of their income or area code. Okay? He's passionate about it. He really is. And then I think all the rest of this stuff sorts out. You empower parents with more choices. You create more accountability at the local level. It'll all get sorted out. All right? And so I appreciate your question. It's a wonderful one. Okay, in the back, thanks. Hate turning my back. I'm a biker too. I was on a Harley Davidson Friday.
Good bike.
I did. I was on a motor, and I saw somebody tweeted a picture of me on the Harley. I didn't, and it said "Born to be mild." True. I loved it. I'm going to get a T-shirt.
Sir, welcome to Phoenix.
Thank you.
On August 31st of this month,
Okay.
the Phoenix City Council is slated to vote on a sanctuary city measure. It's called Municipal IDs for Illegal Aliens. Okay? What this program does, it rolls out the red carpet for those who are undocumented or illegal to partake of taxpayer-provided services and programs.
Right.
This is going to pass on the 31st of August unless there is an uproar across America about these programs. These programs are spreading across the nation like a cancer. What will the Obama, sorry about that.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, nothing.
What will the Trump administration do in order to stop this cancer from spreading?
Tell me your name.
My name is Vince Anselmo.
Vince, thanks for your service in Vietnam.
You're welcome.
Welcome home. Donald Trump has been very, very clear about opposing sanctuary cities.
Thanks for getting that joke. I think it's because of relationships, and so what I would hope to be able to do, and I think Donald and I have talked about this, is to be a partner in taking the agenda of this president to Capitol Hill and to governors around the country, and saying here's what is the vision of the American people expressed in this 45th president. And let's go make policy. Let's pass laws. Let's lift the burden on the American people. Let's support our military. Let's make the right appointments to the Supreme Court, and to be a full partner with him in advancing his agenda is my ambition and my commitment to you, Spunky. It really is. Okay, last one. Hi, thank you. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Kira Bose. I'm 11 years old, 6th grade.
Kira, is it?
Yeah, Kira.
Nice to meet you, Kira.
Thank you. I know we're all talking about Mexico and how the borders are getting overflowed with the wall, but what about ISIS? Like, in terms of military power, government countries, wasn't there talking about that?
Yeah. Give her a round of applause. I really am. I'm very impressed with you. Well done. It's a wonderful question. It really is. You know, back when I was actually in Washington, D.C. on September the 11th, I saw the smoke rise from the Pentagon. I visited New York City and went to Ground Zero a week later. And I saw the piles of smoldering debris. We went after an enemy then that we were hunting down in the mountains of Jalalabad in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda was a group that we were having a hard time finding. What I would submit to you is that we know where ISIS is. They have what they call a caliphate. And I want to promise you, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we're going to rebuild our military, give the men and women in uniform the resources they need to hunt down and destroy ISIS and make it I want to thank you all for coming over the stream to be here. Because I want to promise all of you that what you say to a neighbor and friend, stopping somebody at the drugstore, saying, you know, I ran into Mike and saw Mike and Karen when they were in Phoenix. I've been listening to Donald Trump. And just help people to cut through all the noise and explain to them what the stakes are in this election. I know that if we do all that we can, each of us in our individual lives, we're going to make this good man the next president of the United States of America.